Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast with two guys in their 20s giving their perspective on the games that we love and the story behind it all. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. How's it going?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. Well, tonight we're joined by a special guest, again, Mr. Johnny Meads, a former linebacker in the NFL for the Houston Oilers and Washington Redskins. And thank you for being on again, sir.
My pleasure, guys. I appreciate you guys having me, but I'm not special anymore. It's
Not,
just
yeah, I can't say special anymore. I can't say that. I have to say routine. I have to say routine.
We just one more time.
One more time.
One more time.
Yeah. Well, we have to start it off tonight. Dealing with the Chiefs. This is a team where, in a season where I feel as though the Chiefs-Rams game was the type of game where the league kind of got a snapshot of what the future of the NFL could be in terms of the offenses. And the Chiefs were probably the most electric offense for most of the year. And the defense, Mr. Johnny, we were talking about last year in the last week. I mean, the AFC Championship game, how they give up 524 yards to the Patriots and 37 points, and that coming into the season, we knew the defense was going to be an issue. Like they couldn't really hold their own.
It's going to be a weak point,
right? And Mahomes, obviously the future is still bright with him. 3 years left on his rookie deal, and as talented and it has high of a ceiling as any quarterback in the league. But with what you saw in the AFC Championship and them going ahead, what are your thoughts on their future in terms of what they need to shore up with the defense and what the offense can continue to do?
Well, obviously the offense, obviously speaks for itself with Mahomes, but and all the high-powered studs that they have on that side of the ball. But the defense is something I think they have pieces. Obviously, you saw the defensive line. They had some guys that did well. They have, similar to the Chargers, they have outside linebackers that can rush the passer in Houston, and some of the other guys that they have on the defensive line. They have the back end. They have linebackers. The kid out of Iowa, I scouted him as a linebacker. He's active. They fired their defensive coordinator, and the question is who they can get to play the type of football that's played in this day and age on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's just scheme-wise is the thing that they need to shore up, and I don't know who is out there as a defensive coordinator that they're looking at to do that. But I think they have the pieces. Obviously, they got to get a few more corners, but I think going down the middle of the field, the defensive line, linebackers, and the safeties are decent enough to play against anybody in the league, but they just have to get a better scheme, I think, is what it is. And who that's going to be at this point, guys, I don't know. But I think they have the personnel, just like the offense obviously has the personnel. But the defense just needs to have a better scheme, I think, to make things better for themselves.
Yeah, and Savon, this defense. I mean, they have it's ironic because they have the best pass rush in the league, but they were 26th ranked defense. So Savon, would you say the second, because you talked a lot about the secondary last week for the AFC Championship game, was that kind of the biggest glaring spot for you in terms of what you saw in that loss?
I think it was all around, to be honest. A couple of guys, I think they're at a point as a defense, they were one of the top pass rushers in the NFL. This year, it wasn't the case, but the secondary was highlighted with the leaving of Marcus Peters, and they added Orlando Scandrick at the end of the season. I think hired Steve Spagnuolo. He's going to the 4-3 defense. I think that would be better for them so they could get back to the basis of pass rushing, getting pressure, and helping out the secondary. I think that's what they were missing. Then it created a lot of missing spots because no secondary is going to be perfect. We all know that.
Right. Especially in this day and age.
Exactly. And the pressure that allows, the secondary to be able to get to the spots and get to the blind spots of the coverage, especially cover 2. But the secondary has to be better, but I think the focal point has to be the pass rush. They have to get some guys in there. They have to re-sign D Ford. I think they should re-sign Orlando Scandrick. His contract is up. And then it's some other missing moving variables and pieces that they have to get together. But that pass rush has to get back to the glory days.
Yeah,
and I think, guys, to add to that, that's what I was talking about with scheme. I think if this scheme, like you're talking about, Savon, with the pass rush and allowing the defense to get their spots and allowing the corners to basically the defensive backs to play better, it allows for a better system and a better situation scheme wise. That's what they need to shore up, and that's what I was alluding to.
Yeah, and before we move on, dealing with Mahomes, you were talking, Mr. Johnny, last time I had you on. Like you're saying, like what he's doing is just so unique. It's not something you see every year. In terms of like the top tier young quarterbacks, even throw in like Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield. If you were a GM, is this kind of the young quarterback that it's unanimous you'd want to build around?
Oh, without question. And we're going to get to that subject, but with regard to quarterbacks in general, anytime you have what appears to be a franchise quarterback, and we're looking at it in the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, you build on that without question, and that's what the league has to do, and is going to focus on doing, because as it stands, the ball's gonna always go through the quarterback's hands, and what he does with it is what the offense is gonna how the offense is gonna be dictated.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Transitioning to the Saints, this was one of their best seasons in franchise history. At home they had never lost in the Peyton Breeze era in the postseason. Then they have the heartbreaking loss to the Rams with the no pass, the non-pass interference call, and
right.
And it's gonna. First of all, Mr. Johnny, what were your thoughts when you saw that call? Because that was one of the most blatant missed calls of, I think, everybody.
I'm almost, and everybody, I think it's going to be unanimous. And I talked to a few people about this. It makes me almost not want to watch the Super Bowl, because yes, that's how serious it is for me, because there's no way that
the right team is in.
Yeah, in my opinion. I mean, obviously people will say, a lot of people, of course, will say different, but there's no way that, in my opinion, that the Rams are in the Super Bowl if they go ahead and make the right call. That being said, going to officiating, if I may, you talk about making the right calls and trying to get it right, and going to replay and all of those kinds of things with regard to the penalty not being called. Why are we doing all of this? Why is it taking so long? Why do you go through all this stuff and you don't make the right call? I'm totally without question disappointed in this whole process, and like I said, I think, that being said, going to your point, I think the Saints will make another run because of that. You remember what happened in the the
Minnesota Miracle?
The Minnesota Miracle. They came back from that. I think they're going to come back from this as well.
These are two back-to-back heartbreaking playoff losses.
Yes,
I mean, I can't think of a team having two more back-to-back heartbreaking losses.
Yeah, but I think they're up for it. I really think they're up for it. And I was kind of, as much as I'm a New Orleans guy, I'm from Louisiana, I was kind of a Saint fan. I wasn't like my family over there. I mean, they're diehard. I was like, okay, the Saints are good. I like them. I like the players and all those types of things. But I'm going to be the most hardened Saint fan this coming year that you want to have, because of this non-call.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I mean, obviously that kept them from advancing, but it's so rare to see them blow to have a 13-0 lead at home and kind of let the Rams get back in it with the fake punt, and Michael Thomas only has like one reception in the second half. It was rare to see some of the things that happen. And Kamara only was kind of, to me, he was the only like real passing threat in the second half, and the running game was ineffective as well. But to you, in terms of, because at the beginning of the season, this was like a scorching hot offense, and it kind of like teetered off at the near the end of the season. What was like the biggest amount of regression that you saw with this team kind of heading down the stretch?
That's a great question. I think that the Michael Thomas, I think they did a lot of things. I just think it's the league, Wellington and Savon. It's a fact that a team is going to catch up to what a team is doing and is going to do throughout the course of a season. Just like with the Rams, and I know we hadn't gotten on that yet, but they tapered off considerably during the course of the season. It's just one of those things that happen. And conversely, if you look at the things that like happens to somebody like the Patriots, they start off relatively mediocre,
slow.
And then
after the Lions lost, the sky was falling.
Right. And so they turned it around. They do it the way they do it, which they're a different team. And again, I know you're going to get on that topic, but I think it's just one of those things that happen in the NFL that you kind of aren't able to maintain, that high level of play. And I think if you go across the board, you see it with, just about, all the teams. You're talking about the Chiefs. It happened the same way. I mean, you saw how they were scorching during the early course of the season.
Right.
And they not totally tapered off, but obviously they weren't as scorching as they were at the very beginning, with Mahomes throwing 15 touchdown passes in like 3 games or something like that. That didn't continue. So it just happens, in my opinion. And I think it's just going to be a case where they're going to, be the type of team that you see, in my opinion, as I said, it's going to come back and do well this coming season. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. And Savon, the Saints, I mean, number 1 seed, they finished, I think, number 4th in offensive efficiency. And there were all of these elements that just kind of had them geared for another run. And you were, extremely impressed with the defense and how they kind of, became the elite factor of the team as the season went along. But in terms of just the fact that, Kamara was kind of the only shining element in the passing game in the second half, what were your kind of thoughts on what went wrong for them, other than, obviously the blatant miscall?
The call.
I don't think they had another big-time receiver to match up with Thomas. It worked because you have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram coming out of the backfield doing different things, being versatile. But when it mattered the most, when they kind of make you a one-side team, then you don't have anybody to rely on. I think if Dez Bryant was healthy and then get injured, I think he would have been that guy to kind of, push them even forward to have those multiple weapons. But they have a lot to do this offseason. They have a lot of players to re-sign. Dez Bryant is one of them. Matt Tateo is another. Sheldon Rankins is another. Benjamin Watson is retiring. So and they have to re-sign Mark Ingram. So they have a lot of things to do. They have to go find another wide receiver in the draft to match with Thomas, because we don't know if they're going to sign Dez Bryant back. So they have a lot of potential. The defense was better than I thought it was. And then I think Cameron Jordan is starting to get that shine and that limelight that he's been deserving for many, many years. Wellington, I tell you, Mr. Meads, that I think Cameron Jordan is top 5 defensive tackle. People don't give him that credit. That credit.
Yeah.
But I think they have a lot to go on, but they have a lot to do this offseason to be able to get back to that point, because we've seen that look at the Jacksonville Jaguars the year before.
They get to the AFC Championship, and then the year after, they're not in the postseason.
Blake Bortles. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. I really don't like Blake Bortles as a quarterback, but it's hard to repeat. It's hard to repeat that type of success. That's why I tip my hat off to the Patriots, to the Ravens used to do it.
Because there's the
Rams.
factor of it's hard to get back to this point. You don't know how many times they're going to get back to this point, and
But guys, if you think about it, you're talking about Sean Payton and I think the Saints, even though obviously when I was a scout, you're in the front office and you're competing against front offices, and they have a pretty good front office staff that I think with all that you're saying, Savon, I think they're going to do the things that you mentioned. They're going to sign the people, the necessary people, because you saw how they went and got Dez Bryant. And when Dez Bryant wasn't there, what's the big receiver that they got from Seattle? He was there. They're going to do some things. And Brandon Marshall. They are going to do some things that, most front offices, don't do. Like they went out and got Adrian Peterson. They're going to do those things. The fact that they need to do all that you said that they're needing to do, I think they're going to go out and do it.
They know when to roll the dice.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the type of team that knows how to do that. Transitioning to the offensive rookie of the year, or just kind of the comparison with Barkley and Mayfield. Both had phenomenal seasons. Saquon Barkley, he had set a rookie record with 91 receptions this past year, and Baker came in, leading Cleveland to 7 wins with also an NFL rookie record, 27 touchdown passes. And these were the top 2 picks in the draft. And, running backs, they have a lot of times a short shelf life in the league.
Yeah.
We've seen the struggles. I mean, Gurley, best running back in the league, but didn't have an effective game. I think only had like 4 yards or 6 something in the NFC Championship, in the NFC Championship game. And this is, with Mayfield, there was questions about the height and things of that nature. But Mr. Johnny, in terms of these 2 players, which one would you want to build around for the future?
Well, I think you hit it on the head when you said just the nature of the running back position, the short shelf life, and the fact that they're not a type of player that you want to build a team around. As I said earlier, that anytime you have a quarterback, that's what the league is driven by, and you want to build your team around a franchise quarterback rather than a running back. He's just an added piece, like you see with every team, the Saints, the Rams, as 2 examples of the addition. I think I was gonna talk about Gurley as a storyline that we're gonna get to in the next segment, but running backs are just that. They're just added pieces to the puzzle. You have to build your team around a quarterback. As a defensive player, as much as I hate to think about offenses as the focal point of a team. In this league, it's a quarterback-driven league, and you got to build your team around a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, so Barkley was pretty much a highlight reel for most of the year. Just electrified a team that was in the doldrums, is still in the doldrums, and is looking for that. But even with what he did, they're still looking for another quarterback. They're going to be in the in the draft looking for the next replacement, the replacement for Eli Manning. But in terms of these 2, comparing these 2, would you also go with Mayfield?
No, I'll definitely go with Barkley. I think he's a special talent. I think those guys, you have to let's look at a defensive coordinator perspective. Game planning for a running back like Saquon Barkley is bonkers. That I'm up all night. That's Ezekiel Elliott who can do both off the backfield. Your defense changes and switches. I know the quarterback position is really important. It is really, really important. But I think now the Giants realize what a special talent they got, and that if he stays healthy, then they can find a quarterback that game manages and game plans perfectly. You don't need a big time quarterback to win ball games. You need every piece to work specifically in the order. I mean, you look at, I'll give you the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is a great talent. Kareem Hunt was a great talent, but they still flourish and flowed with a running back like Spencer Ware because it's a little pieces everywhere. I think Saquon Barkley is a special talent. I will build around him, get a quarterback, and you get an offensive line. If they could get an offensive line with the Giants, that team will be deadly because they already have the other weapons. I think the running back position needs to give more clout, more credit.
I think I would tend to agree with you. I'll still stick to my point. I would tend to agree with you, just like we looked at with the Steelers, and when they weren't able to sign, what's the guy with the
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. Mm-hmm. I think you have a point there, Savon, and that with a special talent, yes, you can certainly build a team around a talent as a Saquon Barkley. And that, remember, guys, I don't know if you remember, Wellington, but I did say I would have picked Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, you did.
The first pick in the draft. I would have. I mean, that's how
high you were on him.
Yeah, that's how high I was on it. But with regard to the question, I would build my team around a quarterback like a.
You can pick Lamar Jackson if you want to. You can pick Lamar Jackson.
even him, but like a Baker Mayfield, as you saw, he can be somebody that can can propel your team to newer heights.
Right.
So let me ask you this question. So if this was not even back in the day, if all these guys was in their primes, would you choose Barry Sanders? Or let's get a quarterback. That was a good quarterback. Okay. No, that's never mind. Well, Joe Montana. They're the same age coming out. Barry Sanders, Joe Montana.
Dude, that's crazy. You know what Joe Montana did in his day. And then, Oh my God, yeah, that's a tough one. And that's why I'm saying I think you have a very, very good point that you can possibly, because if you have a Barry Sanders type talent like you do in Saquon Barkley, your point is well taken. You can build a team around him. But as I said, long term. But remember what we said: the shelf life of a running back is.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you look at, and the fact that and everybody knows this, sitting in numerous draft meetings and position meetings and NFL meetings, everybody knows that it's a quarterback driven league, and that's the thing that you take, that I, as well as a lot of GMs, take out of a draft meeting. You know that you need that quarterback, you need that trigger man.
Yeah. But when for you did do you feel as though it became a quarterback driven league? Like, do you feel as though it started maybe 6 or 7 years ago, or do you think it's kind of been it's been something that's kind of been there, but now it's highlighted even more because
more highlighted? Because I mean, I know when, gosh, I can tell you when we took Warren Moon from Canada, when there was this bidding war with the Houston Oilers back in the day, and there was a bidding war for Warren Moon. That's when you knew it was a quarterback-driven league. However, it wasn't as highlighted as it is now, with the things that happened, with the quarterback and how they, put them on a pedestal, and you can't touch them and all those kinds of things. But yes, it's become that. It had become that way back then, but it's obviously more highlighted here now in this day and age in football.
Right. Transitioning to Antonio Brown, obviously him and the Steelers, the season ended with him, skipping the last game, and there was a dispute between him and Big Ben, and this has kind of been the type of year with the Steelers where there's been a ton of off the field distractions with their star players, two of their best 3-star players, and there's a ton of landing spots that are possibly available for Antonio Brown. Two of the biggest ones to me are the 49ers and the Packers, because the 49ers, they could use more in their receiving core. even though George Kittle had a phenomenal year. I think 1,377 yards, setting had the best statistical tight end season this year. And with Green Bay, they have a new coach, and also the fact that outside of Devontae Adams, they don't have an extremely elite, and they've never had like a generational talent at wide receiver in the Rodgers era. But in terms of if there's one landing spot or maybe a couple that you think it would be a good fit for him, what would that? Yeah, what would that be?
Oh gosh, that's another good question. And even though I looked at it, I didn't think about it. But there's a number of places. Anytime, there's a spot for a wide receiver, obviously a place for a wide receiver he can go. I don't know. You can go all across the league. I'm thinking the two places I thought about offhand, and I don't know if they would be a good fit, but I thought like a Miami or and taking it from one part of the country to another to maybe Arizona, because of the fact that they're gonna need to shore up some things with what's the receiver there that's retiring or thinking about. I don't think he's going to do it yet, but I'm right. How old he is. It can be a number of spots. Even, gosh, those two are the ones that stand out in my mind. That could be, but it could be any number of places that have the cap space and are willing to welcome somebody like that in. But remember, I told you last time I was on Wellington that I knew the kind of kid that Antonio Brown was.
You expected this, right?
Yeah, and he was a bit of a hothead. I mean, it's been proven. It's not anything that's to people that in the scouting world that knew about this kid. Mm-hmm. He's got that type of mentality. So it's got to be a case where he goes somewhere that either he's able to show and somebody would allow that, or it's got to be a place that somebody needs to rein that in, like the Steelers did for, a few years until he became, Antonio, Brown, star receiver. And right. Now he's showing himself as to who he is.
So, Savon, would you? Well, I already know who you want it to be. Green Bay, right? Green Bay, right?
Of course. Yeah. I just don't think he fits anywhere else. Just Mr. Meads just hit it on the coffin. His attitude, his whole mindset. I don't think any other young quarterback, can handle that. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is that type of quarterback that can get him the ball every single time. It's going to have to be a veteran quarterback that has experience with wide receivers, any type of wide receiver. And I think Aaron Rodgers will be that type of guy, because if Aaron Rodgers is given the time, we all know he can surgically.
He can do some things.
Yeah, do some things on the field. But I think he will be a great addition. And there's nothing in Green Bay for you to get in trouble with. Like, you're focusing straight on football. I think even with Pittsburgh, you got a lot of stuff to do. But with Green Bay and Wisconsin, it's cold. You're going to be in the house. You're not going to be doing nothing. You're going to be focusing on football.
On football.
And I think he goes to a place where they welcome football and the fans eat, pray, and live football. Just like Texas, that's all what Green Bay is. It's all about football. But I think he fits. He needs a veteran quarterback. Even with the Patriots, I think he'd be a good fit with the Patriots. But they won't pay him. But that's another story.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah, they don't pay anybody. They only pay two people. Well, three. That's Belichick, Tom Brady, and Gronkowski. Yeah. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with this, I mean, it really does seem likely that they will move him. But with the aftermath, if Brown leaves and Pittsburgh, still has a lot of talent. What do you see in terms of what do you think this is like the best thing? Like okay, Le'Veon Bell, Brown, they didn't really want to be here, was becoming toxic, just like in the NBA with Minnesota. Savon, Butler eventually left, and it was no longer a toxic situation. So do you feel as though the toxic element of it leaving is obviously you're losing probably the best wide receiver in the league, but still, do you feel as though the toxic element could be a blessing in disguise at some extent?
Oh, it most definitely is. I saw Mike Tomlin on the field during the Senior Bowl week. I told you about this story. He was
Yeah.
living his best life, smiling in the ear, looking at good potential wide receivers. But if the situation has to be better, and I think they want to clear out because they have a lot of young guns, and Juju is was going to be a good talent here shortly. He's already a good talent, but he's going to just flourish because now he's going to be the number one wide receiver. I think
He's going to be
Ryan
the main guy.
Switzer, yeah, Ron Switzer will step in. He was injured. He's the trade from Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
He'll get an opportunity to show what he has. They have a lot of young talent that they can focus on. Now Connor comes in and takes over for Le'Veon Bell. We all know this is a business. At the end of the day, they're going to find players who are going to buy in to what they're selling, and that's what it's all about: finding players, the potential, moving parts, variables, trying to find people that's going to buy in. If Antonio Brown wants to leave, he can leave. Goodbye. We can find another wide receiver that's hungry to replace you. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft that are pretty good, and I have a couple in mind, but we're not going to talk about college. But get them out. It's a business. Get them out.
Let him go. Let him go.
Yeah, it definitely seems as though this is one of the things where you kind of have a receiver who's pretty much adamant about leaving. Does not like the environment. And there was, I think, the article with the Steelers. They were saying like they felt like he got special privileges at times.
I think, guys, as I mentioned, because I know he's a hothead, and because they had him under contract, and they knew he was a pretty good talent, they kept him that way until now. You're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They haven't paid anybody, that wants to leave. You're thinking that the Patriots is a team that don't pay anybody and lets their people go. You've not seen, obviously, they kept Le'Veon Bell at that franchise tag for 3 years.
Yeah.
So they're not going to pay anybody. So and they're not going to have people, riding roughshod over the Rooney organization.
Right. Yeah,
I would definitely agree. Transitioning to the Super Bowl between the Rams and the Patriots, the Rams, it's interesting because for most of the year, this was a team that we were talking about. Oh, can they go 16-0? Can they go 15-1 or 14-2? But the offense it struggled with the Bears and Eagles, and I feel like public perception kind of cooled off on them a little. And obviously they're going against the Patriots, who have been the standard 9 Super Bowl appearances with Brady and Belichick. But just like we saw last year, I mean, the Eagles had a really good front four. So do the Rams now. I mean, Wade Phillips has had success against Brady with the Broncos. And in terms of how Foles was able to make big plays, I feel like the same thing has happened with Goff. Like Goff has to outduel Brady, has to make big downfield throws, and the run game. I think I think Gurley will look better, a little being a little more rested. And the biggest thing is the Patriots offensive line. It was huge in the Kansas City game, and it's going to be huge in this one. But Mr. Johnny, what are kind of your thoughts on the key factors in this one?
Well, leaving off from what you just said, with the Patriots offensive line, but they weren't going against this defensive line.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one of the telltale signs that, the guy, when you're talking about a possible MVP of the league, when you're talking about Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, I'm thinking the last 3 or 4 games, which is for him to be consistent, playing consistently well for that long is good for him. And then he's going into a Super Bowl. I think that's going to be huge. I think it's the defensive line of the Rams going against that offensive line that looked so good in the AFC Championship game for the Patriots. And I'll put my money now on Aaron Donald, because I think they're going to do a lot better. As much as I said that the Chiefs' defensive line looked better during the course of the season than in times past, it's still not the Rams' defensive line and Aaron Donald and what's the kid from LSU, the other big kid that they have on the line. he's good as well. So they got across the board. They got top tier defensive lineman that's gonna, I
Right.
think, handle the Patriots running game a little bit better than obviously the Chiefs did. Also, I think it's just a little bit different. The Aaron, Jared Goff situation. I think Jared Goff kind of, he kind of scared me a little bit in that NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
He was kind of, ruffled a little bit and wasn't playing as smooth, and that kind of scares me. That's another issue with regard to the game. And lastly, as we talk about with Gurley, what's going to be the deal there? Because he played, minimal time, and he's a fantastic running back. We talk about running backs being a franchise type player.
How much do you buy? McVay was talking about that with Gurley being out, it wasn't the injury, it was just game flow, and CJ Anderson fit better in that game. Do you buy that?
I don't. But I don't know why he would say that, because he should be more of a straight shooter and let you know. But I don't buy that at all, unless they were trying to get CJ Anderson to do what he did in that the previous game,
right,
and run like gangbusters and try to get that going again while resting him. But he certainly didn't obviously do as well as he did in that previous game. So why would you not go back to your horse, and put Gurley in there and, have it at least be a 1-2 punch rather than, just keep him on the sideline and let try to find out what CJ Anderson was going to do, because he didn't tear it up like he did in the previous game.
No, not at all.
But yeah.
So Goff to you is the most, because you're talking about how you really buy the defense and how they're going to be obviously way more effective than the Chiefs were, but Goff to you is kind of the most concerning element.
Yes, for the Rams. I'm not seeing him being that, that steely, tough, hard-nosed quarterback that's going to put the ball in there where it needs to be all the time. Comparing him, of course, to Brady, who's that seasoned veteran that's been around forever.
But didn't we think the same thing about Foles, Brady? Like going in, didn't we think, okay, Brady's going to outduel him?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that was a thought.
Not a major thought anyway, because we didn't think that Foles was going to do as well as he did, but we didn't think that he was going to. I'm just thinking, my thought, guys, is that maybe Foles' ceiling, you expected him or wanted him to do well. In this case, I'm just looking at Jared Goff and I'm thinking he's not going to do well. He's going to. I think the pressure's going to get to him or something. There's a problem there for me. And
it has.
I don't know.
That's what I thought in the Saints game. The reason I didn't pick the Rams, because I was like, if they're down before 2 minutes left, I just don't have the confidence in Goff to be able to lead that drive.
That's the point. I think we're all in agreement there then.
Yeah, and
not the same.
Yeah, and Savon, you were talking about last week. You obviously like the Rams defense to give them the edge in this game. And I think Donald was your MVP. Your vote for MVP, right? And so with 20 sacks. But in terms of the key factors and storylines in this game, I mean, the Patriots were able to control the clock like a ton against the Chiefs. That I don't see the run game having as much success, obviously, in this one. But what are your thoughts on it?
I'm kind of switching my position, not just because of Jared Goff, to be honest. And I've seen him in multiple games through the regular season, not even the postseason. He missed so many throws, overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys. But he has spurts when he's on, like the game against the Saints, the last couple of throws, especially to Gerald Everett. Those throws on point. That's the Jared Goff that I'm used to seeing consistently. But he does miss a lot of throws. It does take him a while to get going. And I know that the Rams defense led by Aaron Donald is going to be phenomenal, but I'm just in the back burner. That's a real good Patriots offense of line. And we don't give them enough credit. And it's one guy on the Patriots that no one can stop. Not out of the 31 teams in the NFL can stop this guy. His name is Julian Edelman.
Yeah,
you
seriously.
cannot game plan around this guy. He beats cover 2. He beats man-on-man. He beats just phenomenal guy. He's a dog.
He's a confident kid too. He's got so much confidence in his ability.
Yeah,
he's a monster. He's a guy that continues to grow and gets better every single game in the postseason.
In almost every Super Bowl. In almost every Super Bowl, the Seahawks, the Falcons, there's always one Edelman play that was just a difference maker. It was just always one play. But in Savon, in terms of the kind of if there's one, because like if Cooper Kupp was in this game, he'd be a huge X factor, right? You'd almost think differently about the outcome of this game. Well, I don't know. It's still Goff.
The guys. He's a good quarterback. I don't have as much confidence in Goff as I do in Patrick Mahomes, because when they pushed it to the overtime, I knew they gave him too much time on the clock. That's how surgical Patrick Mahomes is. That's how much confidence I have in him. This is his second year.
And here's what happened, Savon, just with that point. He did it too fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Too much time left on the clock.
Yeah, he left Brady with too much time. He just like you said,
Brady was like, all right, I'm good. I got enough time.
Yeah. And
that was his only mistake, right?
I don't have that much confidence in Goff because I don't know. He just missed. Don't get me wrong. Mahomes does miss throws. He missed throws in the first game against the Patriots. They started off a little late because he missed.
Yeah, they were down 15 at one point.
Exactly. So I mean, he does have flaws, but I have more confidence in Patrick Mahomes because he's that deep ball. He has the big arm. He's confident. I love a quarterback who's confident, steps in, and he does everything for his team. Not saying Goff doesn't, but it's just a different type of aura for those quarterbacks.
That's the point too, Savon. That's what I'm talking about. I think he to me, I saw until that play, and we don't want to get back in that. And they were able to were allowed to get back into the game that way. I saw that lack of confidence in Jared Goff.
Yeah.
That's what I saw, and that's the thing that bothered me.
Yeah. So Savon, it sounds like you're leaning New England, Mr. Johnny. You're leaning Rams, right?
Yeah. I'm definitely the Patriots.
I'm gonna go with the Rams. Just because.
Do you feel confident? No, Mr. Johnny, do you feel confident picking against New England?
No, heck no, because I just said Jared Goff is going to be a problem. But
just realize who you're betting on.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you turn around and hand the ball off to Gurley, and you make enough plays, like you said, Savon, that he can make and is capable of making from time to time. That's why I have.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I don't think Todd Gurley is 100% healthy. That's why I think he wasn't in. I don't think he's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
So I think he looked back. He was like, okay, Todd's not working. Okay, we have Anderson. Shoot, Anderson's not working.
Yeah.
I'm Johnny. Give the ball to Johnny. I'm Johnny. Like, it was just to that little Giants moment, like, oh, the team's on me. And I think it goes into that confidence. I don't think he has that confidence to be, okay, I can lead my team to beat a seasoned quarterback in Tom Brady.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's the case, I tend to agree with you. I think Todd Gurley is going to be healthy enough that they're going to be able to hand the ball off to him enough, and he's going to make enough plays. Because understand that if he's able to even, give him give Gurley a few, passes in the flat or, dinks over the middle, that'll help their cause and help Goff's confidence.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it's a good Super Bowl.
I like New England in this one.
Continue the good feel of it's been the last 5 Super Bowls have been really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before we wrap this up, with New England, I mean, this is they're the standard. If they win another one, Brady will probably continue until he's 55 or something. I don't know when he's going to stop. But with the Rams, I mean, they have this new blueprint in terms of everybody's looking for the next McVay. Mr. Johnny, to close it out, in terms of the Rams, like how confident are you that they can constantly be in this in these types of games because they went all in this offseason to maximize their run.
Well, I think looking at the Sean McVay factor, that's the reason that they can, you know, be a type of team that can, you know, be a consistent, competitive, contending team.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, a coach like McVay, kind of, and the league is a copycat league, and everybody would try to get Sean McVay type players as they've done, you know, Green Bay and all those that they're gonna try to.
It's not a guarantee that it'll work like that.
Yeah, we have to see. But yeah, I think it's he's got something, and to be the kind of coach that I hear about him being as far as a player's coach and, you know, those types of things. I think he can be a pretty good coach going forward. That the league would be, you know, his I guess his players or coaches that go around the league. It's going to be a case where it's going to be that type of league going forward. Not the New England Patriots mold, but
right.
The
I don't think we're going to see another Patriots-like team a while. Yeah,
not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
Well, Mr. Johnny, thank you for being on again. You know, you got the Clemson pick right, so Savon, he may get the Rams pick right. We don't know. He may go 2 for 2.
We got to see. But thanks for having me again, guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, that wraps it up for tonight. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. This has been Full Scope. See you later.